Oh. 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 Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. Why do people wear pink ribbons on their chest near their heart? Why do people wear pink ribbons? Please share with me. That's right. It is to remind the wearer and the seer of breast cancer, how this is a serious illness that affects millions. In November, across the world, this month has been changed into No Shave November or Movember, as in mustache November. And the reason for this is to create awareness of men's health issues. I'm sharing this with all of you because you may be wondering why I have a mustache right now. It is to remind myself and to remind everyone else that we all need to be healthy. In Bhagavad Gita's chapter 4, verse 19, a powerful quarter is shared. Jnana Agni Dagdha Karmanam, which means for the one who is aware, all of their actions are burnt with knowledge, burnt with the fire of knowledge. And I want you to try to visualize this. The sense of deservership is darkness. If there's deservership, there has to be doership. That creates a sense of darkness in one's inner world. And awareness or knowledge, this is a fire. This is light. Visualize being in a tunnel or a cave, and you're stuck. But if someone hands you a torch, then you can navigate through that cave, correct? And eventually get to the light at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the cave. For one who is identified, tuned into their nature, there is only light. For us, we have to create and bring this light. And very practically, in verse 20, Tyaktva karma phalasangam, that one should let go of being dependent on fruits or results. How to do this every day? A consistent message of Pujya Swami Tejomayananda's is to be less insistent. Fruits are going to come. Results are going to come. It's the insistence that creates that inner darkness. And another word for insistence is controlling. A lot of us have a control problem. And it makes us feel out of control, yes? Nitya tripto nirashrayaha. The one who's content is the one who's independent. First work on deservership, then start to work on doership. The one who's content has utilized the opportunity that is their life. Do you remember the pancharinas that I spoke to you about? How nature's forces, nature's beings, society, family, our guides are perpetually giving to us so that we can become content and independent. This quarter is indicating one who has utilized these opportunities fully. In other words, they've paid off all of their debts now. That's why they're content. That's why they're independent. Like being independent from a bank. When you leave that bank, you have a big smile on your face, correct? Karmani abhipravrittaha. While acting, they are engaged. The implication being is that they're exhibiting pure action. They're acting out of fulfillment. They're in the present. They're unitasking. That's the difference between being busy and being engaged. How many of you, by show of hands, dream a lot? I mean, with your eyes closed. With your eyes open, I know, but with your eyes closed, how many of you dream a lot? Okay. Part of the reason why you dream a lot is while you're awake and acting, it's not pure. There's an acting for fulfillment. There's a lack of focus. There's multitasking. So whatever happens in the waking state starts to populate your dream state. You challenge yourself to be more present while you act, and you will find you will have less dreams because there's less of that undigested experience or experiences. Api naiva kinchit karoti saha. Even though engaged, one has the sense of, I am doing nothing. No doership, which means no deservership. When I contemplate, whether it's open eye contemplation or closed eye contemplation, I always begin with a sankalpa, which means I'm stating the intention for which I'm about to engage in contemplation. And part of that sankalpa, I say it in here or I say it with my mouth to myself in reference to my master, I am nothing. I say that, I think it, I am nothing. In reference to my parent, that is Bhagavan or God, I think and say, I am yours. And in reference to infinity, I say and think, I am all. I am none. I am yours. I am all. For us to start to practice, I do nothing, remember your master. That is a practical way to tune into, I do nothing. This sentiment is continued in verse 21. These are very practical. Nirashiryata chittatma tyaktva sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilvisham. The first quarter. How can one be like Sri Krishna? Nirashihi means to be without hope. The word asha, which many of you are named, means hope, but in this context, it means desire. To be without desire. How can we practice this though? This is shared in the next word. Yata chittatma, one whose mind, the word here that is used is controlled, but we know the more practical word is directed. How can I control my mind? It's far more powerful than my willpower, but I can direct my mind. You will observe the more you direct your mind, the less desires you will have. The less you direct your mind, the more desires you will have. This is obvious in so many ways, like if your heart is full, your stomach will be full. Whenever you're enjoying what you do, you don't need to enjoy as much. Agreed? But if you have no enjoyment, all one will plan for or desire is enjoyment. Next quarter, tyaktva sarva parigrahaha, one has let go of or been freed of sarva. Sarva means all. Parigrahaha means what we're holding on to. I've let go of all that I'm holding on to. Technically, this is my experiences, my equipment, and my ego. I'm holding on to all of this. Why do I hold on? Because I don't have any sense of inner security. But if I start to practice what I've been taught for hundreds of verses, I will have that sense of inner security. So it's natural for me to let go of as if outer security, which is experiences, equipment, and ego. I've been thinking a lot about climate change, more than ever. An observation I have, and you reflect on this too. If we rewind to before the Industrial Revolution, whatever possessions existed in the world, they were owned by communities, community centers, public transportation. But with the Industrial Revolution, what communities used to own, which means many families and many individuals are using, then families began to own. So more possessions were needed. Now individuals have come to own, so even more possessions are needed. I think about when I grew up, my sisters and I stayed in the same room. For my parents, they stayed in the same room as their parents, correct? See how matters are becoming more individualistic. And then what happens? Naturally, there's going to be damage to our nature. Do you agree? Is that a fair observation? The third quarter, Shariram Kevalam Karma. The one who's trying to live like Sri Krishna, or the one who lives like Sri Krishna, karma, their actions, kevalam, are only for shariram, their body. In other words, they are tuned into the fundamental, so they only operate functionally. They only live for this body to survive. Not even be handsome or beautiful, just to survive. I'll zoom in on this. You have all heard me share 100 times. Our parent is looking at us, and so our parent is looking after us. Shri Krishna is that parent. And the more I remember this or know this, what happens is I surrender to the one who's looking at me and looking after me. Observing my own life, I'm surprised that I've survived this long. If I think of all of the ways that this body could have been severely damaged or destroyed, the only reason it's not is because my parent is looking at me and looking after me. And I know you feel the same way. I think about my children who are extremely vulnerable health-wise because of their age. How is it that they've survived and thrived? Not because of Vivek, but because of their parent. And in this verse, what is being shared is one who remembers and knows this. Imagine how freely they would live. That this body is simply going to be taken care of. I have much more to share about this, but to complete this verse, Kurvan, while engaged, naapnoti, the one who lives like this, does not experience kilbisham, which means sin. My final thought for all of you, and we'll reflect on this, we'll complete it tomorrow. If you have something to gain, that means you are vulnerable to being affected by what happens in the future. If something good happens to you, you feel good. If something bad happens to you, you feel bad. Punya and papa. But if you have nothing to gain, why? Because you feel your presence. You become immune to anything that happens to you. If something good happens to you, fine. If something bad happens to you, equally fine. For one who's tuned into this presence, they live in the present. Far less regrets, far less anxiety. Start. I think just in the last 17 minutes, I've given 10 practices, courtesy of these verses. Start with one. And all of this will come together. Like a puzzle. As soon as you start, you see more and more puzzle pieces fit, yes? But if you don't start, this is overwhelming. There's a billion-piece puzzle. Just start. From inspiration to application. Your application was to listen to a song completely. No regrets, no anxiety, no excitement. How many of you were able to complete this? One hand. I see one hand, but I can't see their face. They have a digital background, which means no hand. For all of you who tried and faltered, what this is indicative of is how instinctively we live. That we can't even listen to one song without this sense of what do I get, which is always pulling me into the future. Live focused on purity, balanced mind, focused mind. Try again. Your application for this morning, I want you to try to count how many times you feel you are being controlling. Try to count how many times you feel you are being controlling. Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.